Today, my speech topic is research on performance analysis and teaching techniques of Brahms variations on Hungarian song, OP 21, number 2. Okay, my introduction. Why these works matter. Good morning, everyone. Today, we turn our attention to a work that sits at the very heart of Johannes Brahms' artistic identity. His variations on Hungarian song, OP 21 number 2, composed in 1855, when Brahms was just 20 years old, and published in 1861. This piece is far more than a useful experiment. It is the microcosm of his lifelong mission to honor classical tradition while breathing new life into it through the raw, unbridled energy of folk music. Okay, to understand why this work matters, we must first situate it in Brahms' career. By the 1850s, he had already established himself as a prodigy deeply influenced by Bach's contrapuntal, rigor, and Beethoven's structural ambition. Yet he was also captivated by the music of everyday life, particularly the Hungarian folk melodies. He encountered through his friendship with violinist Edward Emily and Joseph Joachim. These encounters weren't merely for fun, they became a lifelong obsession, shaping works from the Hungarian variation to this very variation set. Exciting scholarship has long celebrated Brahms as a bridge between classical formalism and romantic expressivity, and his variation from has been studied from their mastery of thematic transformation. However, when it comes to OP 21 number 2, the conversation has often stopped at a structural description. What's missing is a deep dive into how to perform its technical challenges through sticky double notes, shifting meters, and rhythmic complexities, and how to teach its unique blend of classical discipline and folk sportly. Today, we will fill this gap. Whether you are a performer grappling with various passage, an editor guiding students through its ceaseless nests, or simply a music lover seeking to understand its magic, the exploration will equip you with tools to engage with the work on a deeper level. Let's begin. Uh, Structure and style. Okay, Brahms once wrote to a friend, variations are my passion. I could write them forever. For him, the variation form was not a rigid template, but a playground where tradition and innovation could collide. Unlike Mozart or Haydn, who often treated variation as decorative exercises, Brahms remained the theme from the ground up. He preserved its horn is melodic counter, harmonic scale action, and emotion isness, while transforming its rhythm, texture, and character with each variation. OP21 number 2 examines this approach based on a Hungarian folk melody with alternating 3/4 and 4/4 time signature. The work unfolds as 13 variations plus a coda that feels more like a fantasy than a mere conclusion. What is striking is how Brahms balance unity and diversity. Every variation tracks its roots back to a obligous theme, yet each feel like a distant chapter in a large story. This is no accident. Brahms once said, I want to make something allegorical out of a ephemery. And here he does just that. Elevation of folk turn to the level of high art while preserving its earth's charm. Okay, let's break down the work's architecture to see how to balance play out. Form. The pieces follows a composed ternary structure, classical framework that Brahms influenced with romantic flexibility. It begins in D major, shifts to D minor in the middle variations, then returns triumphantly to D major for the coda, a journey that mirrors the emotion arc of a Hungarian dance, from exuberance to introspection and back to joy. The creative variation dominate, meaning Brahms retains the theme's backbone while adorning it with ornaments, rhythm shifts, and textual changes. For example, variations 1 takes the theme's melody and transposes it to the left-hand octaves, repeating it in right-hand triplets to add energy. Variation 7, by contrast, builds the theme in the bass. According is the photoscenical lines that mimic a chamber music conversation. The 13 variation build scenes deliberity, early variations, exhibition, the themes folk rose with dance-like rhythms, middle variations 5 to 9 exploring darker, traumatic and complex matters to deepen emotion complexity, and later variations, which checks up the intensity, consummating in a coda that synthesizes the motifs from earlier variation into a grand, celebratory final. Three trees define the work's unique sounds. National flavor. Brahms didn't just blow Hungarian melodies, he absolved that spirit. The Hamilara rhythm in variation 6 is a prime example. The left hand pulls in dot time, while the right hand danced in triple screening, the playful tension that equals the syncopated energy of Hungarian credits. Similarity. The reiterated note motifs in variation 12 evoke the symbolum harmonic dialectum central GSP folk music. Okay, even in the most virtuosic passage, Brahms never lose sight of melody. Taking variations 4 as an example, its octave rings and block chords could easily feel mechanical, but Brahms octaves in the lyrical theme that backs to the song through the fingers. As pianist one bottle notes, Brahms' melodies are like old friends. They demand to be treated with warmth, even while warmth in technique fair work. Rhythmic intonation. The work is a masterclass in rhythmic creativity. Typical runs through nearly every variation, adding fleeting syncopations in variation 8, creating a sense of preference in metric shifts like the switch to 6 to 8 in variations 9 to keep. Performance and the listeners on their toes. These chords aren't just flashy, they mirror the unpredictability of folk music, where a dance might speed up, slow down, or shift rhythm on a wheel. Okay, techniques meeting the challenge. Nearly every variation demanded mastery of double notes, octave, or chorus technique building book Brahms used to share technique and implosion. Let's break down how to approach them. Okay, double notes. This appear most prominently in variation 18th, where repeat thirds and sixths create a sense of urgency. To play the cleaner focus on two things, right accessibility and sixth note finger movement. Start with slow practice, using fixed fingers to build musical memory. Imagine your hand as a frame that move as a unit, with finger strip staying close to the key to avoid wasted motion. As you speed up, think of the passage as a single melodic line. Let the top note of each double note lead, so the melody shines through. Okay, octaves. Variations fourth octave runs the trailing, but intermediate. The key it is the channel stretches from the upper arm, not just the finger. Practice dropping your arm from the scholar to strike the keys, using weight rather than tension to produce a rich, full tone. Avoid snapping the right instead. Let it pivot gently to move between octaves. Pianist Huan-Qi exit. Think of octaves as conversations. Each pair of notes should speak clearly, but they should also consist to from a set tone. Okay, chords. Brahms chords, especially the seventh chords in variation 3, are dense and rich, but they must never sound muddy. Focus and on-form key contact. Practice all notes in the chord at the exit C moment, using a slant rebound of the hand to left between chords. In seventh chord, X faces the two top notes to highlight the melodic counter, and let the lower notes provide a warm foundation. As with all technical challenges, slow practice is key. Play each chord hold it, then tallies complexity before the next build control and clarity. Scales and aspects drive the momentum in variations like 10 and 11, where they created a sense of flow. Brahms' approach to this differs from Beethoven's. Well, Beethoven's often used the arpeggios to outline a single chord. Brahms shifted harmonies with a pregated passage, making them more harmonious complex. The wrong scales in variations 10 requires most trimmed transitions and level and lateral wrist movement. Practice exceeding scale by lifting to trump just before it needs to pass under the hand, and let the wrist shift softly to the right to accommodate to motion. For descending scales, focus on breathing the third and fourth finger over the trumpet quickly, instead of practicing note by note. Group scales into perhaps a 4 or 8 note that build fluency and mass typical. Variation 11's arpeggios are tricky because they shift harmony mid-passage. Slow practice is incidental here. Use high left finger to feel each note's weight and focus on transferring energy from one finger to the next. Try practicing with rhythms variations. Add dot is note followed by sixteenths notes to build precision. Remember, Brahms' arpeggios aren't just a technique exercise, they monologue lie in discs. Let the top note of each arpeggio lead, so the melody remains clear. Okay, Brahms left feels pattern making in the work, giving performers creative lives. But with license comes the responsibility. The goal is to enhance, not obscure. Rhythm skirtion, in variation with harmonies or seasonal position. Use short, scattered pedal taps in enhances clarity. Press to pedal just after squeezing the keys, then release quickly to avoid burning the rhythm. A lyrical section in polyphonic variations like 7, where multiple melodic lines wear together, using half pedaling. Presses the pedal as you play a chord, then release slightly as you move to the next. Allow the tones to blend without mudding. The creative warmth while keeping each voice distant and adaptly. Always adjust for your instrument and space. A bright piano in the small room may need less pedal. A dark piano in a large hall may need more. As a rule, practice with pedal first. If note sounds clear with just your fingers, the pedal with only enhance them. Okay, 2 R's regions. No two performance interprets the work the same way, and this is a good thing comparing recordings. By Times Webster and Mark Anderson rivals how difficult broaches can illuminate different facets of the music. Variations recording lie into the work's folk and romantic root in variations 10 to 11. He softens the right hand triptos using samples rubato to mimic the ebb and flow to a gipsy violin. His pedal work is generous, clean and warm, enveloping sounds that evoke campfire music. In variation 6, harmonies, the explicit the contrast between the left hand's steady pulse and the right hand's dance-like tempos, making the tension feel almost playful. For Wassery, the work is first and foremost a tribute to Hungarian culture, emotional artisticity trimmed struck adherence to the score. Okay. Anderson, by contrast, highlight the work's classical bones. His performance is clear. Double notes in variation 13 are struck with equal weight. Ensure each individual ring clearly across. In variation 11 are grouped into precise units, emphasizing their role in Brahms' harmonic narrative. He avoided excessive rubato, maintaining a steady pulse even in lyrical excretions, while underscores the work's structural unity. For Anderson, Op. 21, number 2, is a showcase of Brahms' mastery of classical form. Every note serves a purpose in a large architecture. What these techniques using? These interpretations aren't approaching that complement. Variation remained as to honor the work folk spirit, while Anderson grounded as his classical discipline. The best performance, as pianist Zhang Ganghua puts it, dance between two. They are precise enough to respect Brahms' structure, but flexible enough to the Hungarian fair rate. My interview. The interview is the three distinguished professional musicians Wang Botao, Zhang Ganghua, and Hua Anqi, each with extensive years in piano performance and pedagogy practice. As active pianist with a profound focus on classical repertory, practice the work of Johannes Brahms. Their interest is rooted in both hand artistic interpretation and academic analysis.
你好，王博涛老师，请问你如何根据你的钢琴演奏和学习经验来评价勃拉姆斯的作品？
从我多年的钢琴演奏和学习经验来看，勃拉姆斯的作品仿佛是传统与创新之间的一次深刻的对话。当我第一次尝试弹奏他的钢琴奏鸣曲时，我被其精妙的对位法所震撼，使得钢琴的声音几乎有了管弦乐的效果，其中蕴含着未经雕琢的炙热激情，但这种激情始终被置于尊崇古典传统的框架之内。他的音乐既要有技术上的纯熟，也要有情感上的成熟。演奏者需要驾驭复杂的和声与多层次的肢体，而心灵则需与作品中那些内省且时而忧郁的元素产生共鸣。这一切绝非表面功夫，每一个乐句都像是精心雕琢的雕塑，即便是最微小的细节，也共同编织成了一个宏大而永恒的故事。
好的，谢谢王老师。 好的，谢谢王老师。另外还有一个问题是关于勃拉姆斯匈牙利舞曲变奏曲21号第2首的一个表现。你认为在装饰音的处理上，演奏者是应该更加注重古典风格的严谨性，还是匈牙利音乐的即兴灵动性？
勃拉姆斯深深植根于古典传统之中，因此呢，古典风格的严谨不容忽视。统一的颤音和清晰的发音提供了奠定作品基础的部分，但这些变奏曲的灵感源于匈牙利音乐，后者以那种自发的炽烈的能量见长。我认为关键在于找到平衡，古典风格的严谨赋予作品结构和连贯性，从而确保装饰音符不会变得杂乱无章。然而，通过展现匈牙利音乐的即兴灵动性，演奏者能够赋予作品那种纯正而活泼的精神，而这种匈牙利舞曲不可或缺的特色，这要求演奏者在尊重框架结构的同时呢，让音乐自由呼吸并尽情舞动。
好的，谢谢王老师的回答。你好，张港华老师，你是如何根据你的钢琴演奏和学习经验来评价勃拉姆斯的作品呢？
对于我来说，勃拉姆斯的作品都是情感深度与结构复杂性的一个典范。那么，当我在演奏和研究他的作品的时候，我常常惊叹于，他的作品大概都是由古典传统的恢宏与极其个人色彩的一种结合。那演奏他的钢琴作品，对于演奏者来说，他的这个对于技术和情感的要求都是非常高的。那么他的作品当中大概都是弥漫着渴望与温暖，但是不会让人感觉过分的感伤。我们能感受到勃拉姆斯对过往古典音乐作曲家的尊崇，但又能感觉到他个人对这个作品的一种创新与突破，所以才会为我们留下永恒却又极具个人色彩的作品。
好的，谢谢张老师。好的，张老师，还有一个问题是关于勃拉姆斯匈牙利舞曲的变奏曲作品21第2首的一个表现。你认为在装饰音的处理上，演奏者应该更注重古典风格的严谨性，还是匈牙利音乐的即兴灵动性？
我觉得这两个我们都要注意，因为勃拉姆斯呢，他深受匈牙利音乐的影响，所以他大概的曲风都是对这个精神的一种歌颂。那么这里的装饰音呢，不仅仅是装饰音，它更多的是展现活泼与热情的一种风格。但是这一切都是在古典音乐框架当中去完成的，因为勃拉姆斯的本性呢，他还是古典作曲家，我们要尊重他乐曲的精准度的同时，找到一个合适的平衡点。那么这里的颤音呢，一定要足够的连贯，保持结构稳定性的同时，又要灵活的去捕捉匈牙利曲风的即兴感。像这里装饰音，给我们的感觉更多的是在勃拉姆斯边界内去翩翩起舞，既能展现匈牙利的纯正曲风，又能带有明显的个人印记。
好的，谢谢张老师。你好，华老师，你是如何根据你的钢琴演奏来评价勃拉姆斯的作品？
勃拉姆斯的作品是他作为作曲家的天才的证明，他能够巧妙地将严谨的理性与深刻的情感表达融为一体。从我演奏作品的经验来看，我发现每一个音符都有它特定的作用，没有浪费，也没有冗余。他的钢琴音乐就像一幅复杂的织锦，其中的每根丝线都为整体画面增色添彩。令人着迷的是，它竟能使那些在技术层面极具挑战性的段落也显得自然流畅，且能触动人心。他的音乐中蕴含着一种庄重感，这种能量源自他对和声与形式的深刻理解。每一次重温都能发现新的东西，一种微妙的细节或一种之前没有注意到的隐藏情感。正是这种知识的深度与情感的丰富性相结合，使得他的作品经久不衰。
谢谢华老师。你好，华老师，关于勃拉姆斯匈牙利舞曲变奏曲作品21第2号的表现，您认为在装饰音的处理上，演奏者应该更加注重古典风格的严谨性，还是匈牙利音乐的即兴灵动性？
在处理勃拉姆斯匈牙利舞曲变奏曲作品21第2号中的装饰音符时，有时需要达到微妙的平衡，但我倾向于强调古典的严谨性，同时留有诠释的灵活性。勃拉姆斯极为注重形式和结构，他的音乐建立在古典原则的基础上， 这些装饰音符虽然受到匈牙利音乐的启发，但仍属于古典作曲的范畴，其演绎我们应该体现出这一点。统一的颤音和精准的连段处理有助于保持作品的清晰度和完整性，而这正是勃拉姆斯作品中的关键要素。话虽如此，我们不能忽视匈牙利的影响。这首作品应该带有一种活力和自发的感觉。演奏者可以在合理的范围内为装饰性音符注入一些即兴发挥的精神。这首先是要尊重乐谱，但同时也要留出一些灵活的空间，以展示匈牙利音乐的特色。毕竟，勃拉姆斯创作这些变奏曲是为了捕捉匈牙利音乐的精髓，但他是以古典作曲家的视觉来完成的，这正是我们应该努力保持的平衡。
好的，谢谢华老师。
Okay, the interview focused on two key questions. These questions aimed to explore the complexities of Brahms' music and the art interpreting it. The first question looked at Brahms' composition. It drew on the interviewee's first-hand experience, their learned practice, and performance of this work. The interview's dynamic format allow for real-time adjustment to questions and deep dives into expected, tangent yet granular details, such as discussion of spective passive, where verbal might soften to even hungering lyricism or movement, where strict articulation anchor of piece structure, while nonverbal cause emitted gestures. When describing dance rhythm, thoughtful pause when reflecting on emotion, tone, further carpet the interviews intervention, add layer of meaning absent from writing analysis is alone. The interview method was indispensable to the research. It served as a bridge between statistical analysis and live artistic practice. Moreover, it directly addressed the core goals of the study. First, it uncovered unrecorded experimentations, insights that go beyond the traditional research. Academic literature or focus on formal analysis or historical context. However, the pianist shared a gradual, practice-based wisdom. For example, the described how particular harmonic shift feel under the fingers. They also talked about how revisiting a sonata after decade reveals new emotion layer. This style, which cannot be quantified in text, shed light on the intimate bond between the performer and the work. In doing so, she enhanced to understanding of how Brahms' music lies beyond to score. Second, the flexibility of the format depend the equity the researcher could adapt question to follow ingredient changes. For instance, to explore why Brahms' Hungarian influence feel fixture, further that rule. This allowed the researcher to avoid rigid runners to uncover niches. On such niches is how vibrato speed might vary between sections to single mode shift. Actionable. Observing now. Variable Q shaftly substitutions in intent. For example, Zhang Gaohua's emitted time when discussing dance theme rhythm. The inserts the expressions of balance or rigor were grounded in the performance lived experience. Third, is unhold the research in practical performance. By certain practice, the study moved beyond what Brahms wrote to how to bring it to life. This is a critical shift to understanding musical interpretation. The insight in decorated note, for example, provide actionable gradient of performance. They indicate when to learn into spontaneity and when to tighten precision, thus bridging the gap between through and the stage. Okay, the study has undertaken a comprehensive exploration of Brahms' variations on Hungry Dance OP 21 number 2, integrating musically analyze, performance technique, investigation, conversation, interpretation studies, and particular insight to illuminate to the work multifaceted nature. Through the interdisciplinary approach, several key findings emerging, underscoring the piece's significance is in Brahms' hours and enduring revelations for performers, educators, and scholars. The music analysis reveals that OP 21 number 2 stands as a multiple series of classical formulas and folk expressive. Brahms involves use of variations techniques particulars, derivative variations, metric shift, and resemble complexities such as harmony and triplets reflects his ability to filter Hungarian folk elements through a classical lens. The work structure, with its 13 variations and fantasy-like coda, balanced unity and diversity, showing his departure from rigid classical, modal top, and a more fluid, expressive from that holds both tradition and national characters. This duality rooted and classical rigor yet emanated by folk variety defines the piece's unique musical identity. The examination of performance technique highlights the technique demand perspective to the work, from mastering double notes, octaves, and chord to navigating scales, arpeggios, and next pedal usage. These techniques are not merely technique challenges, but serve various for expressing the work inherent classical precision, ensure structure clearly, while flexible articulation and timbre variation control the spontaneity of Hungarian folk music. The comparative analysis of Tim Veris and Mark Anderson's rocking recordings further illustrates how interpretive choice, whether pronouncing romantic experiences or structural transparency, shapes the work's emotion and formal resonance, validating the legitimacy of diverse artistic vision. Insight from interviews with professional pianists enforce the importance of balancing classical, regional, and folk spring in the performance, particularly in neglecting decorative notes. The consensus among practitioners advocating for controlled flexibility that honor both traditions, bridges, theoretical analysis, and practical execution. of flurry, egg tremble, gradients of performance, the diggler between scholarship and practice underscores the work's living nature. As interpretations evolve while remaining ground in Brahms' composition interview. Okay, thank you for your listening. Uh, thank you. Are you some question for me and this work?
I really enjoyed your speech. I've got a quick question about it. I'm just starting to learn this piece, and I find the rhythm really complicated, especially the parts with 3 against 2. How can I practice to avoid getting confused?
Okay, I think you can first break down 3 against 2 for practice. For example, practice the left hand first to keep a steady 2 beats, and practice the right hand alone to play even 3 beats. Once each hand is proficient, slowly combine them. Use a metronome at first, slow down the speed and count left 1, left 2, or right 1, 2, 3 in your mind. After practicing a few times, I think you will find a balance.
Okay. So when playing the piece, is it better to use the pedal as much as possible?
No, that's not the case. The pedal should be used sparingly but precisely. In scale section with strong rhythms, tap it light and release quickly to avoid burning the sound. In lyrical section, you can hold it a bit longer, but don't press it too deeply, otherwise the note will be unclear. It's best to practice perfectly without the pedal first to injure your finger. Can play clear. Then gradually add the pedal. Okay.
I have listened to two different performance vision. One is very free and the other is very regular. Which one is correct?
Both make sense. The free variant is more like the feeling of folk dance, while the regular variation highlights the structural beauty of the piece. In fact, when playing, you can take a middle pass. Either the rhythm is scoured and add a bit of flexible in approaches to place. This way, you can respect the structure of the piece and bring out the variety of Hungarian music.
Okay, when teaching students to play this piece, should we practice techniques first or talk about style first?
Okay, first practice the basic techniques, then gradually add style. For example, let students play octaves and scales fluently and get the rhythm right first. Once their fingers are proficient, tell them where to play with the dance-like feel and where to be as gentle as singing. You can let students listen to Hungarian folk music to feel its lively yet lyrical vibe, and they will gradually get the hands of it.
The ornaments such as small tails in this piece have to be played very fast.
There's no need to pressure extreme speed. The key is to be nature's. Always the means to make the melody more vivid, like tone work in speed. For example, in lyric sections, or